Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to today's Infopedia web conference, Cloud PBX, Architect and Coexistence and Migration Workshop Training. We are broadcasting and recording this web conference through Skype meeting broadcast, and the audio can be heard through your PC speakers only. If you do not consent to being part of a recorded session, we ask that you please disconnect your browser at this time. The web conference recording will be available at skypeoperationframework.com/academy within 48 hours. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right-hand side of your screen. We have posted a few items there already and will continue to monitor that throughout the session. Now let's move on to the show. Presenting with us today from Microsoft, we have Agus Luckman, Senior Customer Engineering Architect for Microsoft. Agus, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Doug. Hello, welcome to the soft training on Cloud PBX architecture, coexistence, and migration workshop. My name is Agus Rahman. I'm a Senior Customer Engineering Architect based out of Sydney, Australia. And I'm part of the Skype Customer Experience and Deployment team. If you have been watching the soft training series so far, I would expect for you to be familiar with the SOF already. For those joining for the first time, you can get further information about SOF from skypeoperationframework.com. SOF is continuously updated, and we are actually actively listening to your feedback. Let us know what works, what needs to be corrected, what needs to be added, anything. Please go to skypeoperationframework.com/feedback to share your feedback. We recently launched SOF Community, a place where you can discuss SOF with your peers and SOF team and learn from others on how they are applying SOF in their project. So go to aka.ms/SOF Community to check it out. This is October 2016 version of this training. Due to the ever-changing nature of the service as we keep on adding features month after month, and SOF itself is always reiterating based on what we release in the service, things may have changed upon watching this training. For most recent up-to-date trainings, go to skypeoperationframework.com/academy. In this opportunity, I would like to take you through a training session on how and what to deliver in the Cloud PBX architecture, coexistence, and migration workshop. This workshop is almost similar to the Cloud PBX architecture workshop that is part of the Get Deployed offer. The key differences would be this workshop is specifically targeting cloud migration scenario. With consideration around long-term coexistence and migration from the on-premises Skype for Business Enterprise Voice to Skype for Business Online Cloud PBX. You, as the workshop facilitator, will use this workshop to go through the detailed design of the high-level architecture previously defined in the envision stage with the project team. So aside from the high-level architecture design that was defined in the envision stage, the detailed design will take into consideration the execution plan agreed upon with the project stakeholders. Upon the completion of this workshop, you should be able to complete the detailed design document using the template provided as part of the cloud migration offer assets or using your own organization's template. Why the detailed design document is important? I've seen a few situations whereby organizations found out that they need to procure something such as certificates or reconfigure the firewall against the established security policy in the middle of deployment activities. This will cause significant project delays, for instance, due to lengthy procurement process or security risk assessment that needs to be done, and any decision making that needs to be done because the changes will actually go against the established security policy. And all of this will in turn jeopardize your credibility, and also the project stakeholders will not be happy with the execution of the project. To avoid such situation, this is the reason why detailed design is required to be completed as part of the plan phase before we go into the deliver phase of a project. So what do you need to prepare to deliver this workshop? First and foremost, you, as the workshop facilitator, should be comfortable with all topics related to Skype for Business, be that the on-premises version of Skype for Business or Lync Server 2013 and below, Skype for Business Online that is part of Office 365, and also everything related to hybrid deployment of Skype for Business. Be that the core Skype for Business Online service itself or all the surrounding aspects, like Windows Azure Active Directory, Exchange Online, and all the components that make up a complete Skype for Business Online solution. And before arriving to this workshop, it is expected that envision stage activities are already completed, especially to have the high-level architecture and execution plan defined. Please refer to the SOF assets and training related to envision stage if you're not familiar with those set assets. As part of the SOF asset for this workshop, a template deck has been provided as a starting point to guide the flow of the workshop. It is not meant to be used as is, and you, as the workshop facilitator, should review and customize the template deck to make it more relevant to the particular migration scenario that you're dealing with. Throughout the detailed design discussion, decisions will need to be made that will require involvement of various roles in the organization, such as input related to network setup, security policies, and performing firewall reconfiguration. Uh, all of that will typically need the involvement of security lead and network lead from the organization. Inputs related to existing telephony setup or telephony related changes, this will require involvement of the telephony lead of the organization, and etc. Certain roles such as project lead will also need to be involved in the workshop to make decisions to unblock certain deployment blockers. By having all the prerequisites above, the detailed design produced out of the workshop will be a realistic and actionable detailed design. Okay, so let's go through the workshop deck template provided as part of the SOF asset. So in the first slide, you as the workshop facilitator will step through the overview and the flow of the workshop. The flow of the workshop corresponds to the design document template. So ensure that you have the design document template ready while delivering the workshop. The agenda deck here is there to represent the workshop flow in a slightly different format. You can use this deck to include the date and or timings for the discussion of each topic should the workshop spans multiple sessions. The site design and key stakeholder section is the first topic to be discussed as part of this workshop. Use this topic to reiterate and reconfirm the decisions made in the high-level architecture, and then identify and document the key stakeholders involved in the execution of plan to implement the design. This is especially relevant in a deployment that involves sites in different geographies, and those sites is managed by different teams. Use this slide to reintroduce the concept related to site architectures if the workshop participants are not familiar with the concept. This topic should have been covered when you are delivering the envisioning high-level architecture workshop, and also reconfirm the decisions made during the envision stage workshop, because most likely you're dealing with different audience in this workshop. You, as the workshop facilitator, will use this slide to reintroduce the key stakeholders and roles required to create and implement the detailed design, and get the decision from the project team regarding the assignment of the roles. At this point, we should be able to identify who's going to do what. And when this current slide is shown, take a pause and use the opportunity to further discuss the topics and document them in the detailed design document. Next topic is related to user management and authentication. Use this topic to again reiterate and reconfirm the decisions made in the high-level architecture, but also use the discussion to further explore the technical implementation details related to user management and authentication. So use this slide if you need to explain user management and authentication requirements to support cloud migration. The user management and authentication methods, cloud identity or federated identity, should already be decided upon in the envisioning high-level architecture. However, this is the opportunity for you to dig deeper on the actual tools currently used to perform directory synchronization, because it doesn't have to be always Azure Active Directory Connect. And if applicable, find out how federated identity is implemented. Is it using ADFS or any other third-party IDP solutions? As we are preparing for hybrid to support cloud migration, also make a point that we need to ensure that the directory synchronization scope is correctly configured. So again, when this type of slide is shown, take a moment to further discuss the topics with the project team and document them in the detailed design document. The hybrid coexistence and migration topic is used to discuss the prerequisites to support the integration between Skype for Business Server and Skype for Business Online. Use the discussion to further explore the technical implementation details related to hybrid coexistence and migration. This is the slide to guide the discussion around the topic about hybrid coexistence, in particular to enable hybrid voice. Remind the workshop participants that the workshop is not meant to plan for a full Lync Server 2013 or Skype for Business Server 2015 deployment, as the expectation going into this workshop is that we have enterprise voice is already functional. You use this slide to show the flow of the discussion around hybrid coexistence for Cloud PBX with On Premises PSTN Connectivity. Depending on the workshop participants, take the time to go through the overview of the Cloud PBX migration scenario. When discussing the general prerequisites, most of the items are expected to be familiar to the workshop participants since they already have an operational Skype for Business or Lync Server Enterprise Voice. Take the opportunity to also expand the discussion whether the organization will continue to operate Lync Server 2013 environment and establish hybrid voice by updating with the latest cumulative update, or make the decisions around upgrading to Skype for Business Server 2015 to take advantage of all the improvements in the new server version. And again, I think to better align with the feature set that we have in Skype for Business Online. So basically, you can interject after this slide with your own content around in-place upgrade if needed, right? So it depends on the discussion flow and the customer requirements. Use this slide to talk with the participants through the requirements to deploy Skype for Business Hybrid. The conversation around SIP domains between on-premises and online deployments may become a lengthy discussion when mail migration is in play or a new SIP domain is introduced, or maybe the lack of awareness that the Microsoft Online default routing domain cannot be used for hybrid. So be prepared for this. As for certificates, especially the Edge certificates, while the organization may have deployed Edge server today, it is important not to always assume that they are using third-party public certificate. Reconfirm and validate that as part of the discussion, including to ensure that each SIP domains to be supported are represented in the Edge certificate. And I'm sure that you're aware of this. When dealing with hybrid deployment, the on-premises Edge server will need to be able to resolve Federation SRV records, which is not required in a normal deployment supporting external access and regular federation. So ensure the workshop participants are aware and design decisions to address this requirement is properly documented. The last topic about hybrid prerequisite is around a federation type, be that open federation or closed federation, and the subsequent configuration to support such federation types. Capture the requirements and existing configurations to be translated into design decisions on enabling hybrid coexistence. So when this slide is shown, take a moment to further discuss the topics with the project team and document them in the corresponding section in the detailed design document. Just to remind you that the screenshot on the right side may not be readable, but it is intentional just to show you that there is a corresponding section in the detailed design document template that we provide as part of the SOF assets. Okay, so going to network planning. So this is a topic that you need to spend a variable. Well, it depends on the customer. So the time is not always the same based on the current state of the organization's deployment. So conservative organization may only allow SIP external access, so both for remote user and federation, but they don't allow external access to web conferencing or FEH today. Obviously, in this type of organization, the discussion will be a lengthy one. For organization that is already implemented Office 365, the ports required to support Cloud PBX may already be implemented, and therefore not a lot of things to be worked on by the corresponding roles. But please ensure the network configuration is properly documented in the detailed design document. So use this slide to walk through the various types of traffic involved in Cloud PBX with on-premises PSTN connectivity via an existing deployment. Feel free to modify this deck as required based on the context of the organization, network, and security teams. Sometimes when they look at like what do you call that, an arrow pointing internal, external, they got freaked out, and I think we need to explain to them what it really means in terms of the firewall rules and how the traffic is originated and all, right? So some organizations will just accept this as is, but some will challenge you, and yeah, be prepared to have that kind of discussion. This other slide is again to walk through the various ports required to support hybrid voice. And again, feel free to modify the deck as required. Okay, so when this slide is shown, take a moment to further discuss the topics with the project team and document all the decision in the corresponding section in the detailed design document. All right, plan PSTN connectivity. Use this slide to flesh out the details on how PSTN connectivity will be provided when implementing hybrid voice. Highlight all the considerations when migrating from enterprise voice to Cloud PBX, and use the opportunity to also expand the discussion to support the site architecture implementation, such as consolidation of SIP trunks to the central site, or maybe implementing PSTN breakouts in all the sites, as it may require additional PSTN gateway capacity to support the scenario. This is the slide you need to use when emergency services calling is a requirement, right? Depending on the country where you operate, on the customer you're dealing with, or organization that we are working with, this may be an important topic or may not. So feel free to pick and choose whether you want to present this, right? And I think the point here, you need to reiterate how emergency services calling should be handled when deploying Cloud PBX with on-premises PSTN connectivity. And maybe you need to expand further to incorporate any third-party solution that can address this requirement. When the decision point slide is shown, take a moment to further discuss the topics with the project team and document all the decisions in the corresponding sections in the detailed design document. On to the next topic around migration considerations. Use this slide to explain all the considerations when migrating to Skype for Business Online, including the general hybrid migration or the migration to hybrid voice. And after that, take the pause, discuss with the project team, and document all the decisions in the detailed design document. All right. So after realizing that after you move to Cloud PBX, that the existing dial-in conferencing in the on-premise deployment cannot be used anymore, this is where we need to touch base on the PSTN conferencing topic. So this topic is used to discuss all aspects related to PSTN conferencing for Cloud PBX users. Use the discussion to further explore the technical implementation details related to PSTN conferencing. So use this slide if required to reintroduce the Microsoft PSTN conferencing availability. And please note that this list keeps on changing, right? So we're keeping on adding countries. So before you present this deck, check back with the relevant Microsoft content. And if you need to do that, make sure that you update the list to reflect the current state. And also use this slide to introduce the concept of toll-free numbers and also limitations of the Microsoft Cloud PSTN conferencing. What you do typically when delivering this slide is you need to allow your computer to connect to the browser and then open up the page relevant to the topic so that you can show all the latest information. This slide is just to reintroduce the considerations when dealing with meeting migrations. And basically, if you're migrating from the on-premises to Skype for Business Online and your meeting needs to be rescheduled or updated, and there are tools that you can use to perform that, or we will have an upcoming service to handle that on the backend side. But again, for PSN conferencing, and if you're migrating from other systems, maybe the step is basically just to reschedule the meeting manually. So take this opportunity to discuss with the project team about the implication of the migration. So when the slide is shown, take a moment to further discuss the topics with the project team and document them in the corresponding section in the detailed design document. Because I think it depends on how long it takes for you to move from the high-level architecture design to the detailed design here. The gap in the countries that we identified earlier may already change, right? So the site or country that previously was not serviced by the PSTN PSTN conferencing services is already surfaced, and maybe you need to change the plan based on that. So use that opportunity in this slide to discuss in detail. So moving on, so the enterprise voice to Cloud PBX topic can be considered as the main topic to be discussed in this workshop. The decision points are simple to make. However, they will influence the implementation details and schedules of the Cloud PBX migration. In this slide, you will talk about the available PSTN integration approaches and the implication of each option. So if you're going from enterprise voice to hybrid voice, what are the considerations, right? And then what about if you're going from enterprise voice to PSTN calling? And if you want to take I think, more conservative approach, how would you do that, the enterprise voice to hybrid voice and then to PSTN calling? So use this slide as a starting point for you to discuss and make a decision around what's the option that is going to be decided for the customer or organization that you're working with. This slide is used to reinforce how the design decision will influence the implementation plan and schedules, and how to correctly set the right expectation both to the end user and the project stakeholder based on the design decisions. Okay, so coming to the hybrid voice configuration slide, use this slide to guide the tenant-wide dial plan configuration decision and to define the required voice routing policies to support the design. So dial plan configuration allows you to be able to retain existing dialing behaviors, but obviously, if the plan forward is to actually move to PSTN calling, then I think this is the opportunity where the project team needs to make a decision whether they should retain the on-premises dialing behavior or just start educating end users on how to make a phone call or to dial the numbers once they are in the Cloud PBX state. And for the voice routing, this is where you're going to identify all the relevant PSTN usages from the existing policies that you have and which one that you're going to put into the voice routing policy. If the project actually plan to move to Microsoft PSTN calling, then use this slide to discuss all aspects related to implementation of PSTN calling. So I think the concept around calling plans, consumption billing, and how you're going to trade the phone numbers, right? Is it going to be acquired from Microsoft or are you going to port your existing number? And how to deal with number porting. And when we're dealing with PSTN calling, we need also to start thinking about emergency addresses and locations. Again, you need to document and actually input all your locations in your tenant so that you can assign that to your user. And at certain situation, your address is actually not verified and you have to go through the verification process to ensure that the address that you put in the tenant is actually validated. Voicemail. Use this slide if the participants is curious about how voicemail is implemented in Cloud PBX. So in this slide, we talk about all the features, capabilities of the Azure voicemail service. And in the next slide, we're going to talk about all the supported languages. And this is actually organization-wide configuration. So again, when this slide is shown, take a moment to further discuss the topics with the project team and document them in the corresponding sections in the detailed design document. So by this point, you'll have the decision around PSTN integration approach, the migration timeframes, dial plan to use, voice routing policies, PSTN calling plans, the number of required licenses, and also whether you need to set up PSTN consumption billing. Also included the decision around phone number porting or acquire new phone numbers and the amount of that numbers if you want to port and the porting method and also the porting schedule. So this needs to be documented upfront. All the emergency addresses need to be entered and validated. And also make a decision whether you want to enable or disable voicemail. Last but not least, this is the topic to discuss about licensing requirements to support the implementation of the detailed design. So if required, based on the workshop participants, use this opportunity to talk about the required licensing to support Cloud PBX implementation. And almost similar to the previous slide, if required based on the organization requirement and the workshop participants, talk about the required licensing to support Cloud PSTN Conferencing implementation. So the topics around, well, typically, if the customer already procure like the E5 license without PSTN conferencing, then they need to have the add-on for PSTN conferencing. And if the intent is actually to implement like a toll-free number, uh, then they need to consider adding the consumption billing. But if Microsoft PSTN conferencing actually not gonna support the customer requirements and the SEP service is actually meeting the requirements, please also consider that in discussion so that the detailed decision can be documented. So this next slide may not be relevant to all organizations. So only brought it up when it is relevant. And yeah, feel free to remove this slide if it's not applicable to the organization that you're working with. So again, when this slide is shown, take a moment to further discuss the topics with the project team and document them in the corresponding sections in the detailed design document. So this is just to make sure that you have everything covered so that when you go into the deliver phase, you have all the licensing requirements already met, right? And typically, if the customer already have E5, then that's not much needed unless you want to go to PSTN calling. So you need to make sure that you have the PSTN calling plans required to support the number of users that you're going to migrate. So that topic around licensing concludes the workshop. And by now, you, as the workshop facilitator and the workshop participants, should have gone through all the relevant aspects related to Cloud PBX migration. And you will be able to complete the detailed design document. So the detailed design document should include the decision or documentation around the site design and key stakeholders and how you're going to plan to implement the user management and authentication, the hybrid configuration, how you're going to deal with PSTN conferencing, and how you're going to migrate the enterprise voice users to Cloud PBX user. And also cover everything related to licensing if it is relevant to the project. And the way we structure the template today is basically the expectation is to come up with multiple documents per site. So this way you can distribute the information to relevant parties in the organization so they don't have to look all the technical details that is not relevant to their the area of their support or support boundary. But again, the template that we have is not the only one that you need to use, and so you can basically use your own template and yeah, just make sure all the contents that we touch base here is covered. And when you about to deliver the workshop, don't forget to customize the workshop template deck to make it relevant to the organization requirements. Basically, you already have the information once you go through the high-level architecture discussion. And feel free to expand the topics that need further discussions with the organization that you're working with. So I think that's all. I certainly hope this training session is useful for you to be able to successfully deliver the Cloud PBX architecture, coexistence, and migration workshop. So thank you very much for watching this training. Please refer to the resources described here to learn more about SOF. Give your feedback on SOF and to look for additional trainings that will be delivered as part of Skype Academy on SOF. I will return the session back to Doug for closing. Over to you, Doug.
And thank you, Agnes. As a reminder, you may submit any questions that you have via the Q&A panel, and we have time to answer them now. And also, as a reminder, we have a survey link in the upper right-hand corner of the viewing window that says survey link, and is a link to a short survey for this web conference, and we ask that you please take a moment before logging out to access it. We hope that you found today's information helpful, and if you enjoyed today's web conference or have feedback prior to logging out, here is your chance to let us know. These scores are on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score possible, and the recording from today's presentation will be available on Skype Operation framework.com/academy, and you will also be receiving an email within 72 hours post-conference with details to access it. And now back over to Agnes to answer the Q&A questions.
All right, thank you, Doug. So I think we received some questions from the audience as we go through this workshop, this training. The first question is, where can we get the design template being mentioned? So the answer to that, basically all assets mentioned on this call and much more can be downloaded from the Skype Operation Framework.com. Just browse to the download section in the upper right corner, and you can download from there individual files or the whole collection. Second question. My organization already has a low-level design template. Should I use the soft detail design template as part of the workshop delivery? No. The answer to that is no. You don't have to use the detailed design template provided as part of the soft assets. And you can use the detail or low-level design template that you are already familiar with. I would encourage you to review the detailed design template that we provide and ensure that all topics are covered in your detailed design document. The third question, the organization that I'm working with already have all the required licensing to support the migration to Cloud PBX. Can I skip the topic for licensing when delivering the workshop? Certainly. That's the reason why I encourage you to customize the template deck and make that relevant to the organization that you're working with. All right, so that's all the questions that I received. Thank you very much. And yeah, over to you, Doug.
Thank you, and I'd like to extend a big thank you to Agnes, our presenter, and thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us today. This does conclude today's session, and you may now disconnect from the broadcast.